Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And you know, some of us have adventures of our lifetime, and some of us have adventures of our lifetime. And our guest today is an author. She is a ceremonial goddess, and I bet you've never been called that before.
I just got promoted.
And she's an amazing hiker, and her name is Diane Gansauer, and she hiked the Continental Divide Trail from the Mexican border all the way up to Canada, 3,100 miles, and she also is a ceremonial leader, and what she does is if you've got a ceremony that you want to do, and it can be a wedding, it can be a graduation, it can be a funeral, something that a memorial service, something that you really want something heartfelt and written specifically for you. She's your gal, I'll tell you that right now. And Diane, welcome to the show. You've had an amazing life, and by the way, she was 61 when she was going up the Continental Divide Trail, and I know about the Pacific Crest Trail, but I never heard of that one before. But they both go all the way from Mexico to Canada, you know, on different routes, and it's amazing to me because she went through the desert, and there were rattlesnakes and tarantulas, her favorite, because they're kind of hairy and stuff, and then up through the mountains and up to Colorado, and which is a climb of, for those of you that don't know, to go from New Mexico, which is near
The bottom.
what am I trying to say here? Near the ground or the bases, and then it climbs for over 5,000 feet, and in some cases in the through the Colorado mountains, that is, or the Rocky Mountains, and especially in Colorado. I went through a pass one time when going from Colorado down to Arizona, and the pass was 14,000 feet tall, and that's as high as Mount Rainier, which is right there behind me, and so she's done amazing things. So Diane, it's great to have you on the show today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm glad to be here.
How did you decide, and who tried to talk you out of walking 3,100 miles?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I had started hiking when I was a new empty nester. I have my husband and I have one daughter, and when she was heading off to college, I thought I would pick up hiking again, and so I started hiking before taking on the Continental Divide Trail, which is good that I started something a little bit shorter. And actually, I got myself in shape to hike from the south rim of the Grand Canyon down to the bottom and stay at Phantom Ranch and hike back out. And each way is only just over 10 miles, but I just thought it was such a great accomplishment. And I had seen that from the ground as a kid. And when we went to visit it again, I thought I could hike this. So that started it years and years before. And from there, I started hiking the Colorado Trail, which is, there's two parts to it. There's two branches, so to speak. And if you do all of it, it's over 500 miles. And I hiked that first, finishing in 2016. And I remember the morning quite clearly across the breakfast table from my husband. I said, you know, I've already hiked in the mountains, and the Colorado Trail overlaps with the Continental Divide Trail a couple hundred miles. Maybe I'll just keep going to Canada. And I remember specifically laughing at myself at the time and thinking this might be the single most naive thing I have ever said. I was aware of that. I mean, I remember saying to my husband, Bob, this is going to kick it up a notch.
Well, I got to ask you, did Bob go, oh, yeah, great idea, Diane.
No,
Sure, that'll be fun.
I remember he went like, he was reading the paper at the time, and he put them down and he didn't say anything, Kevin.
Well, I think at that point he was hoping that if he didn't say anything, it would just go away.
No, we've been married over 40 years now. He said later that he just knew if I was going to set my mind to it, I would do it.
Well, congratulations. And, and the story even gets better because she did part of the hike with her older brother. Now, she was 61 when she did this, and her older brother was 71.
Yeah, he was 10 years older than I. He didn't start. I started the trail I went from the Colorado Trail to the bottom of New Mexico to start the Continental Divide there at the age of 61. He didn't join me until I was into Wyoming, but I don't remember his age at that point, but I think it was 74, something like that. So when we finished, I was 67 and he was 77. So my brother joined me for grizzly bear country. That was helpful. Once you get into the middle of Wyoming, you're in their range, and the farther north you go, especially Yellowstone and Glacier National Parks, you are in the core of their territory. So I really did not want to do that alone. And he's from Alaska. He's quite the outdoorsman. He was an excellent companion to have with me. And that's when he joined me. He also backtracked with me and did one of the hardest sections of the trail, one of the most remote, and that's the San Juan Mountains in southwest Colorado. So I was smart about it and not to be alone and to take with me the best hiking companion one could have asked for. He was excellent.
Oh, that is awesome. And for those of you who have never done, like when I was in Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts, we did a couple 50-mile hikes. And it's interesting because when you get we went to a trailhead and we started walking, and to get onto the trail, it was 10 miles in, and there was lots of litter and garbage in the first part of it. And then gradually the litter stopped being there because people weren't traveling that far. But then when you're going on those hikes, I remember one time specifically, we were on the west side of the Cascades, or excuse me, the east side of the Cascades, and it was dry and it was dusty, and we were climbing, and everybody was complaining because the guide kept just saying, just one more, just beyond that ridge, just beyond that ridge. And we kept on going and we kept on going, and everybody was whining and complaining. And then we got to the top, and it was the most magical, beautiful experience because on the side that we were, it was dry and it was dusty. And then we got to the top, and it was a pass, but it was only like 30 feet wide. And but on the other side, it was green, and there were evergreen trees as far as the eye can see. It was just, and when you're doing a hike like that, there is no humanity around you. You're really, when you talk about being alone, you're really alone, and you're alone with nature and stuff. And it's magical. When you do that. Was that your experience, that you were way outside of the norm, and there were, you didn't see any litter because nobody ever went that far in?
It was very often like that. The Continental Divide Trail, in comparison to many of the long trails in the U.S. is regarded as the most remote. The farther north you're walking, you will experience more than 100 miles between towns and lots
Wow.
of wilderness areas. So with wilderness, you're not allowed to be in there in wheeled vehicles. There's
Yeah.
not even any bicycles. There's not even mountain bikes out there. So there are long periods when it is very quiet, when the stars at night are magnificently clear, bright, sharp
Well,
images.
there's no city lights
There's no
around. There's
city
no
light.
lights. There's no street lights. There's nothing.
That's right. And there's just this unique quiet about it all, so that even if you are with a couple of people, it's essentially a very quiet and marvelous space. You're alluding to this. You reconnect with nature in a way that it's very hard to do elsewhere, which is why I go.
Well, it is, and if you have never done it, I really suggest you get into shape first and do some shorter hikes and then go on one of these, because it really is the experience of a lifetime.
I would agree. It would certainly be one of the great highlights of my life, for certain. I will always be glad that I did this, even
But
as I age, and I might not do something comparable to that again. I hope to go out that deep into nature now and then. It cleanses the spirit. And you just shed stuff that isn't important and get the buzz out of your mind and clean up your head.
exactly, when we were doing our 50-mile hike, the only person we saw the entire time was on horseback.
Ah,
He was riding a horse. He was going from Canada to Mexico,
ah,
and he had his horse. He had a pack animal, and that was it. And he was alone the entire time. And you're right. It's a very meditative, very magical experience, because you have deep contemplation that you don't normally get when you're doing your day to day. I got to go here, got to do this, got to be that. This is not like that. This is like you're more concerned with making sure that you have food to eat, and your tent is set up properly, and then
water.
you have water, and but then at night, the sounds you hear of nature and the thing, it really is something. It's something magical. And I'm glad you did it, and thank you for coming here to talk about it, because so many people have not. Um, Very few people have done what you've done.
No, I feel blessed. I have. It's not that I didn't work on my physical condition. I certainly did, but I might not have been able to. There's a variety of reasons why one could not do this. I must say it took an enormous commitment of time. When I started, I was working full time. I couldn't say to if you what they call the through hikers, they do it in one shot, and that's about 5 months. Well, I couldn't go into my boss and say, "Hey, can I have my job back in 5 months?" I don't think it would have been greeted well. So I did it in pieces, and as I neared retirement, I became, I went to part-time status, and then I went to contractor status, and then I went to retired status. So I could do more as I frankly approached the age of 70. I wanted to complete it before then. But I'm very aware that this is something a lot of people haven't experienced, and I understand why. I feel very fortunate that I could, but I also focused on it. I made it quite a priority to do.
Well, I can only imagine. And there are people in our audience that are saying, well, no, how many cell towers are there? Like, I really need my phone. And how many cell towers? And
Nay,
no,
nay.
your phone doesn't work
No,
up there.
I don't know exactly how many miles of it, but long stretches, if you're in the wilderness areas, there's no cell service. Now, I will say, I'll just jump ahead to the answer the obvious question is, well, what happens if you have an emergency? many hikers, if not most of them on this particular trail, now have a device that's satellite connected. So were you to get in trouble, or you just wanted to send a message, you do have a way to send a message, or have a helicopter come in and get you. God forbid you're that injured, but that has increased the safety of people out there, and you're not using your cell phone for that. The cell service is not there, or very intermittent.
Well, and that is a recent development within the last 20 years or so.
Yes,
Before
or less. Yes.
before that, you were on your own. As a matter of fact, the gentleman that I mentioned that was horseback, he had a sidearm, which is fairly normal because you need to protect yourself from, because he was going through black bear country,
Mm-hmm.
and there were mountain lions and all that kind of stuff. So you do need to be prepared,
Mm-hmm.
which is more so. We need to take our first break, but when we come back, I want to talk about the thing that I really wanted to talk to you about, and that is the ceremonies that you do, the book you've written, because you've made a difference in the life of more than 400. There's probably many more than that now, but what I read was over 400 ceremonies that you've done for people. And I want to get into that, because that creating something like that for people in their life, regardless of whether it's a wedding or a funeral or whatever it is, those are really important milestones. So we'll be right back. We're talking with Diane Gansauer, right?
Yes.
Perfect. We'll be right back right after this commercial. It's only 45 seconds, so just relax.
You became a real estate agent for freedom, success, and real momentum. So why are you still stuck waiting for closings to save you? I'm Ophir Adar, founder of Real Momentum, and I help agents like you become seven-figure earners. My first client that I coached, brand new agent, made $250,000 back in 2006. What's the secret? You feed your white wolf. That's the part of you that's bold and unstoppable and a closer and able to build rapport quickly. So click Get Listings at Real Momentum and let's unleash your real estate potential.
And welcome back to Positive Talk. And we've got a great guest. I'm really excited to have her here, because she does some magical things. Well, a long time ago, I tried to do something called Family Legacies, where I would interview older people that had a life story to tell. And that really meant a lot to me to do that. But you do ceremonial things. How did you get into that?
Well, I had a high-level executive position in state government in Colorado in the natural resources field, specifically land conservation, outdoor recreation. And there were aspects of it I loved, and there were aspects of it that I did not at all, and honest with myself, wasn't particularly good at or wanted to get better at. So I was in search of a different career, and I made a big shift, not on my own. That's a story in itself as to how I got into Celebrant work, but it started as a side hustle, if you will. It sounds so commercial, but it was really my creative outlet. I was trained in ceremony and story gathering and storytelling, and I loved doing this on the side. I had an opportunity to shift big time into that full time when I was put in touch with a person who is the director of the market in Denver for several funeral homes. And they wanted to start what's called a Celebrant program. Celebrant in this case is a person who is a ceremony expert. And specifically, the celebrants are the ones might be called upon when a family who is grieving has lost a loved one, doesn't have clergy to call upon, which is increasingly common in this America.
Yep.
29% of the people in America do not claim a religious affiliation. And some of those who do aren't as connected as, say, our grandmother's generation was. But then when someone passes away, they want to honor that life, and they don't have Father Joe or Pastor Bob on speed dial anymore.
Right.
So they might call a celebrant who can gather the story of this person and make that the featured centerpiece of the ceremony, if you will. Which isn't to say that I've never served a religious family. I certainly have. The point is that a celebrant follows the lead of the family and does what's appropriate and fitting to them. But we always feature the story. So I came into this after jumping ship on a previous career, and doing that in my 50s that's a risky thing to do, but boy, I've never looked back. And this has been the most satisfying work of my life, no doubt about it.
When one of the premises of the show is that we talk about, why am I here? What am I here to do? Was there a moment in time for you that you said, this job is fine, but it's a job. I want a vocation. I want to really find out what my purpose is and to really live my passion. Did you have that conversation with yourself?
Probably over a long period of time, I have had that conversation. I've always been, honestly, Kevin, a rather spiritually inclined person. I was raised in a very Catholic household, going to church regularly. I was comfortable talking about spiritual matters, believing in God, and certainly if you're a Catholic, being around ceremony a lot. So I think that was in my blood from the, genetically and from the way I was raised. Those were comfortable places for me. And perhaps I was looking for kind of a revised, updated version of that home space. So I don't know if it was a particular moment. It was quite a decrease in income for me. So there was a conversation with my husband and partner in life asking, is this okay? And I remember very specifically what his three answers. In other words, is this okay if I change careers to this? And he said, when was the last time you were happy with your job? In other words, you wanted me to be happy, and I wanted to be happy. Happiness to me, it's kind of could be sort of a superficial word. I wanted to feel satisfied. I wanted to feel satisfaction in life. And honestly, I have always believed this, or certainly believe it more strongly as I've aged and as we've raised a child, is we are at our best and most satisfied with our life if we've been of service. And
Yes.
I'm looking for a place where I felt of service. And when you're walking with people who are grieving, who really do need someone as a bit of a guide through that beginning of a difficult, raw beginning of their journey, that was me and the other people on the team at the funeral homes. And I was very satisfied by that soul work. I really was. Still am.
It's interesting because when you're talking about a funeral service and even in a religious setting, or the family has got a pastor, but the person who passed away may have not been as enthusiastic about religious background as other folks in the family. And what I found was that because pastors and priests are so busy that they don't necessarily prepare. They don't individualize the service the way that somebody that takes the time to find out about the individual, their likes, their dislikes, who they were, what did they do in life, and things like that. So it becomes a really more important thing to be a celebrant like you than even a priest or a pastor, because they show up and they do their thing and then they leave, but they don't necessarily do all of the research that it would. Because when somebody does a service, when somebody wants to do a service like that for a loved one, they want to reminisce, they want to remember, they want the stories that came out of that of that individual's life and stuff. And if you're not prepared, it doesn't come off very well, does it?
Often it does not. I hear those reactions to other funerals all the time. In fairness to clergy, if they are responsible for an entire congregation's entire
Well, yeah,
set of needs, they are generalists, and God bless them for it. A celebrant is, I had the luxury of being a specialist. This is all I would focus on. And very often, one family at a time. So a clergy person, they don't have time. They just don't. They're spread
they
very
don't.
thin.
They
So
don't.
we focus.
And Diane, I have to tell you a quick story. 3 months before my dad passed away, I interviewed him because I had been doing radio and I had the equipment and stuff. So I went to his house and I interviewed him. And the interview was about, an hour and a half. And I found out about things about him that I had never known. And so 3 months later, he had surgery. It didn't go well, and he ended up passing away. And then we had a memorial service for him. And what I did is I took that CD that I'd created and I edited it down to about 8 to 10 minutes so that he could talk about
Oh,
his youth and how he met my mom and then what he thought of life and how he proposed and then the big question was, when you're no longer here, how do you want to be remembered? And
um,
so I gave that to the pastor, and they played it on the sound system during the memorial service.
it's beautiful.
So we could hear in his own voice,
Mhm.
his own words, the man that he was. And it was magical. There wasn't a dry eye in the house because it was really so special. So and that's the kind of work that you do. You make it very special for families. And I watched you on YouTube, and you were doing a wedding and stuff, and the setting was not in a church. It was on a field or in a mountain, and the things that you're able to accomplish with that, it really was special for everybody. And it's remarkable. It must be really a lot of fun for you to put all of that together and then to meet the people and get to know them a little bit and the families and everything. That must be just because to me that's the highest degree of service there is.
But it's listening. I mean, isn't that one of the greatest gifts that we can give to people?
Yep.
Is to pause and listen. What we're saying is something is very worthwhile about you that I'm listening to and about the transition you're going through. A ceremony should be there at the crux of an important transition in life, which is why we have a ceremony when a baby's born or named or baptized. We have a ceremony at graduation, wedding, passing of the life. At least in America, those are ceremonies we're familiar with. In other countries and cultures, there could be far more than that. But yes, we're listening. That's what makes a person feel special. Is we paused, we stopped, we listened. I think your reference to weddings is appropriate for those. Of course, it's the key celebratory moment in many lives. I have
At least the first time, maybe the second, third, or fourth, not so much, but
But I have done over 400 celebrations of life or memorial service gatherings, as you might say. The weddings is an additional 1 or 200. So in total, I have done several hundred ceremonies with families, and
yeah.
I have just enjoyed getting to know their stories, really, very much.
I don't think, and maybe you can correct me, but I don't think that we right now in this culture, I don't think we celebrate life enough because we do, we do the wedding, we do the funeral, but we don't do a whole bunch in between that is, and I think that we're missing the boat on that because we end up doing stuff, going to work, raising kids, going to the soccer games, but we don't necessarily celebrate the way that I think we did at one time. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
You're right. I mean, and think of how many more passages there are in a life. For example, I mentioned, as an empty nester, I walked into the Grand Canyon. That was probably, looking back, even though I didn't know what a celebrant was at all at that point, that was my little passage to the next chapter in my life. We go through chapters in life. I mean, retirement. Um, Gosh, there are ceremonies in other cultures honoring the elders. They have passed into elder status. What does that mean in America today? I think that's worth thinking about. And perhaps,
in America, that means you're going to the old folks
the
home.
old folks home. But,
and by the way, we're talking with Diane Gansauer, and when we come back, I want to talk about your book because it outlines all of these things and this and your life and all the things that have gone on with it, and it's just magical. The name of the book itself is
me to say it?
the name. Hold on, I'll get there. It's just right here, and it's it's the waypoints. And the waypoint, and I love the title because what you're doing is you're basically waypoints is a reference point to the points in time in life that are a waypoint where something is significantly going to change, and I just don't think we celebrate life enough in this culture. And I would love, and I'm glad you're doing the work that you're doing because you're working to change that a little bit. And so that's really good. We'll be right back with Diane. It's just 1:10. Don't go away.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back, everybody. My name is Kevin McDonald, and we're talking with Diane Gansauer, and she's an author. She is an amazing athlete. Did you ever think you'd be called an amazing athlete?
No.
And if you're saying, well, what did she do? It was so amazing. Well, she walked 3,100 miles up the Continental Divide Trail from Mexico to Canada, and she wrote a book about it, and she wrote a book about her ceremonies and all of that. So tell us what brought the book about. What made you decide to write it? Was it, well, you tell me.
Well, when I started the hike at the bottom of New Mexico, I did not have a book in mind. And quite honestly, it was right that I didn't yet. There are, as maybe many of your listeners know, I mean, there are books and movies about people on harrowing experiences on long trails. And many of those hikers are stronger hikers than I am. I mean, they're super athletes. And then there are some who are not very smart on the trail and make bad choices and get themselves in trouble, and then they end up getting a movie deal.
Yeah,
that's how it works. That's my observation.
That is just so true.
So when I started out, it was just to do the hike. It was while I was working full time. I was aware soon that early into the hike, I should say, that I might be processing some of the very intense work I was doing as a funeral celebrant. But it wasn't until I got farther in on the hike that it was a gradual understanding that there was a surprise to me happening here. There are things one learns by listening to so many life stories, as you can imagine, even if someone hasn't done that. You can think about the life stories. You mentioned, your dad. We can all think of life stories within our immediate circle of people we love that are compelling, maybe even inspiring, elements of them at least. And it's good to reflect on those. What do we want to learn from that? I was also learning things on the trail, sometimes by making mistakes. I was carrying too much on my back. I needed to lighten it. So I was learning things deep in nature and from the hiking experience, Kevin, that I started to see overlap with what I was learning from these life stories. And that's what inspired the book. I did not write just a hiking book, nor did I write just a book about these lives I was encountering. I wrote a book about the overlap. The waypoints is a navigational term. Hikers and people who are have a boat, they're navigating the sea, they would recognize that term as something that is a navigation point. You reach a waypoint, you understand then where you are, and you can navigate to the next one. So the book called The Waypoints, from 400 Farewells and 3,000 Miles, and now you know what that refers to, is about those interior waypoints where we assess ourselves and learn from what we're observing. And just to give an example briefly, one of the chapters is travel lightly. Even if you're not a backpacker, you can't carry the kitchen sink on your back. I mean, you have to pare down to the essentials. And I think your listeners can also relate to needing to travel lightly through life. Don't carry emotional baggage that you need to put down. What are you carrying that you should put behind you? Is it resentment of something? Is it sadness or frustration over something you wanted to accomplish that you didn't or couldn't? We all have things we need to say, okay, that needs to go behind me now. I got to go on. So that is one example of a waypoint that I describe in the book through short stories from the trail and from these lives I was encountering.
It is magical when you are doing the work that you're doing, because you get it's like doing this show, because I get to talk to so many really interesting people about what they're all about, and why they do what they do, and things. And it really is, you get a really good sense of what life is like for an abundantly large group of people that don't know each other and don't have the same experiences, and all the experiences are different, and they're priceless in what they do. When I was doing family legacies, and the older people that were in nursing homes and stuff, they didn't think their lives mattered. They didn't think what they said mattered, or what they did mattered. And the one guy said, "No, I haven't had a great life and stuff." But he was on the staff of General Patton's run across Europe in World War II.
Oh my goodness.
And so he knew General Patton, and he knew all of the inner workings. And then when the war ended, and he went to Hollywood, and he met people like Bing Crosby and Bob Hope, and of course he kept saying, "Oh, my life didn't matter to nothing," and they got it so wrong. Each life is precious. Each experience that we have is important. And that's why it's so great that you have written the book, so that you can help people recognize and realize that it doesn't matter. Their lives are special regardless. Do you agree with that?
Oh my goodness, yes. And what's interesting is, in interviewing families, what I found is that the way we are remembered might end up being very different than what we think it might be. We think in terms of, these big accomplishments, or anyway, our legacy is really in the little moments we shared, little intimate moments we shared with the kids and the grandkids in the family, one-on-one, that is how you I'm confident in saying this, that is completely how you and I will be remembered. It's in the small moments we shared. So you don't have to have had, by some social media standard, a big life. It's really it's good on you if you do, but the way you're going to be remembered is probably the small moments you shared with somebody.
And the interesting thing, how I hope that I'll be remembered, is the intimate conversations I have with people like you.
Until you said this, I hadn't seen that comparison between you're interviewing several people, God knows how many people over the course of your work, and I've interviewed hundreds of people, but for our work, we wouldn't have had those encounters.
Correct.
And our lives are richer because of those encounters. And
they are.
Give us something to reflect on too. It's like, wow, I would like to be like that, and it's good on us for wanting to take the lessons of those lives into us and be inspired by them. I'm really grateful that I could do that.
Well, and the type of service that you provide people is something that number one, takes talent. It takes before we began the show, you mentioned the fact that you were not real quick walking up the trail, but you were persistent. And that's a big deal, because being persistent has allowed you to do what you do, and also to find out what was going on with the celebrant and the person that you were celebrating, and what their life was like, and then to build something that would be rememberable to everybody that was there. That I can't think of a more, because those memories that people are going to have of that ceremony that you created for them is a lifelong thing.
Yes, I must say, since this book came out, well, first of all, before that, I was in touch with all of those families whose stories are in the book. There's 30 families represented in that book. Some of them I hadn't worked with in 10 years. And to include their story, of course, I needed their permission at minimum, but I wanted to be sure I got everything correct. And I was back in touch with those families. Kevin, the conversations I had with those families in putting this book together were extraordinary. And they remembered about the value of the ceremony, the honoring of their loved one's life, and really that meant, by extension, their family's life, it blew me away what they remembered and the impact that it had. Some of them I have seen since the book came out. Some of them came to the book launch or book readings. The impact we each have in our circle, the ripples out from us, are far, far greater than we probably realize. And that was both humbling and inspiring and just stunning to me. I'm still in touch with some of those families, have seen a few of them recently. I feel so grateful to have had that opportunity to do that. And again, it was from an act of service 5 to 10 years ago, and they remembered it. What does that tell you about the importance of what we can do for people?
They not only remembered it, they cherished it.
I sense that they did.
Because those experiences, and you were part of that experience, because it's a real art form. Because a lot of people, even a graveside service or whatever, there aren't a lot of people that feel comfortable and confident to be able to stand up and to conduct it in a way that is meaningful to everybody for a long time. You know what I mean?
I do. Kevin, many times people ask me, how is it you can do this? They assume that working in funerals or memorial gatherings of various kinds must be very, very sad. Well, of course, I have a heart. And of course, there's an element of sadness and in the compassion you feel, the sadness of this family. But I have to tell you that I also found I was working in the context of faith that something light, enlightened, and beautiful was in each life. And it was my job, but also my joy to uncover that and reveal it and celebrate it. The job of a celebrant is to find the essence of that person. And I never had, sometimes it was more challenging than other times, but I never failed to find that in that life and bring it out. And what a relief that is to the family, that someone, frankly, from outside the family could see some beauty in the essence of that life. And I think that's what the trail and these lives most gave me, was I could feel encouraged and hopeful that the beauty was there. I was going to experience this, and I sometimes had to be more dedicated and focused and persist than other times, but by and large, I got there. I got there.
And sometimes you have to go through a life with a fine-tooth comb to find the good parts. But and even those, if you can create a scenario where people can celebrate the life, but then also realize that we're all human and we all make mistakes, and
Right.
and we're not all, and it needs to be real, I think, because then that's the major thing, is that you can't sugarcoat. If a guy was as an example, a hardcore alcoholic, you can't sugarcoat the fact that he was a teetotaler, or he never, you know what I mean? And
Yes.
because but then that's the legacy that he chose, that he was going to leave. So it's
To honor someone well means you have to be authentic as well.
that's a great word to use, authentic.
And sometimes that means acknowledging that he might have left, or she might have left, some pain behind in the people that are seated right in front of me. You don't go on and on about that, but you want to be sensitive to that. Certainly.
Oh, exactly. By the way, we're talking with Diane Gansauer, and she's, of course, written the book, and the name of the book again is
The Waypoints from 400 Farewells and 3,000 Miles.
That's a beautiful title. I want this to become a movie.
Oh my goodness. But okay.
And the reason that I say that is, can that picture, it opens up with you on the trail, and then the adventures you have on the trail, but then it's interspersed with the ceremonies that you create for people, and along the way, and part of their stories. And I think it would be it'd be a better mini series. It would be so.
I'm in. Having Kevin Costner call me.
I'll talk to Steven Spielberg. He'll probably jump at the chance. So anyway, Diane is with us, and we need to take our final break, and we will be right back. And we may even be joined by somebody who would love to talk to you. So hold on just a second.
When the game is on the line, championship teams know the game plan. They communicate and work together to win. We all need a game plan to protect ourselves online. Talk to family and friends so they know how to stay safe too. Create strong passwords, turn on multi-factor authentication, update software, and recognize and report phishing, because online safety is not something you want to fumble. Get more game-winning tips at CISA.gov/secure our world. Then share them with family and friends.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, and we are being joined by somebody. She's my host, and I think she's there. Michelle, are you there?
I'm here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. It's going to be a good one.
Well, it's been a good one. You're a little late there, kid. This is the last segment.
Well, I hope everybody is having fun. I'm having a good day taking care of family and some other things. I'm sad I can't be there, but how's it been going?
Oh, it's been awful. And Diane, this is my co-host. Her name is Rochelle. Say hello.
Hi.
Hi, Diane.
Nice to meet you, Rochelle.
And Rochelle we're talking with Diane, and she hiked at the age of 61, which I think that's your next birthday, isn't it?
For me,
Okay, yeah, okay,
Michelle
no,
is silent on that.
she's 26 years old, but Diane at the age of 61 hiked 3,100 miles up the
Continental Divide.
Continental Divide Trail and went through Colorado and stuff. And she also creates ceremonies for people and that have either passed away or they're getting married or other things that people are wanting to celebrate. So while you're here, and we're going to run out of time, but do you have any questions you'd like to ask her?
I don't have any questions, but thank you so much for spending this time with Kevin and being on the show with us. And I am very excited to see where your journey continues to.
Well, thank you, Rochelle. This has been very
You're
fun.
very welcome.
Very fun.
Well,
Congratulations for all the things you've achieved so far as well.
Thank you.
And I just have to say this, that she hiked about 1,000 miles with her older brother when she was 61. How much older, you ask? He was 71. And they were, they finished the hiking. He was 77 years old, but looks like 27.
Yeah,
So.
Well, it just goes to prove that age can't stop you from doing anything that your mind says you can. So
we just take it slower, Rochelle, but we get there.
yes, that's okay.
Persistence is the key, one step in front of the other. But you know something? That is a metaphor for all of life, because you cannot skip ahead. You just put one foot in front of the other one, because that's all we've got. And so thank you. Rochelle had to go, but you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. And I think the other thing that's important, Kevin, is be intentional. It's like you set out and you say, I'm going to walk this. I'm going to go as far as I can, or, but is deciding, is committing. I think walking our path in life with some intention and commitment really makes a difference, or else we just go wandering around.
And at the end of the day, if you're just wandering around, well, you're just wandering around. You're not accomplishing anything. And that's why at the beginning of the show we talk about finding your purpose, finding your passion. Because you were a government employee for a long time, and you were making good money. And by the way, bless Bob.
Yes, I'll let him know you said that. He'll appreciate that.
And he can lower his glasses at me and say, and I say, bless Bob, because when you said, it's going to be a large income drop, and he said, well, but you haven't been happy doing what you're doing. I love you, and I would rather you be happy. I wish more people said that to their loved ones and said, I want you to follow your passion, follow your heart, be of service to others, be kind to other people. That I can't think of a better way to spend your life.
True. And I think an attitude like that from me and from my partner in life meant that I had a chance to become a better person. And finding our purpose, I think, is synonymous with becoming the best we can become. When you find your purpose, you can become the best you can become. And I have wanted that specifically, to be the best I could become. Got a ways to go, stumble around occasionally, make the wrong steps, but my intention, my heart is, and it could be for any of us in our own way, to become the best we can become.
And you know what the exciting part of this is? Until it's over, until that last day, you can continue to do things to make your world and the world around you better and more complete, and you can become even bigger and even better than the person that you were last week. And that, I think, should be everybody's goal, don't you?
Yes, I do. Until the final seconds. And I've heard many stories about people still becoming better and better people to the last moments of their life.
And the fact of the matter is that their last moment of their life is not their last moment of their life, because we continue on. And I've talked to the hospice workers and and funeral directors and all kinds of folks, and they all tell me the same thing: is that it's just death is just a stop along the way because we continue. Where we get to go after that, I don't know, but we'll find out when we get there.
It's true. We're that's the expression. We are a spirit having a physical experience rather than the other way around.
That's exactly right. Did
Continue
you
on.
know? Do you know who John Edward is?
You're going to need to remind me.
He is a psychic medium. He's out of New York, and he's been doing this for a very long time. He had a couple of television shows. One was called Crossing Over, and
Yes. Okay.
and there was another one. And what he says to people when they say, "Well, what about my body?" And it's like, well, when your body is done working, it's like a used car. Your body's done, and the engine's blown. You can't fix it. So what do? Do you stay in your car and for the rest of the time, or do you get out of that car and go get another car? And so whether we get into another car or not is immaterial, but the reality is when our body is done, but we are not. I'm a firm believer in that.
I completely agree. The spirit goes on, and our legacy to the people who loved us goes on.
And in some cases, I get to create a legacy. As an example, I have funded this show in large measure because of my dad and the inheritance I received from him. And so this is his legacy that I'm continuing to build.
How beautiful. That's beautiful, Kevin. He's so honored by that.
He's very honored, and he appreciates the effort and that we're doing this, because this show, as you know, and the reason that you're here, and I'm very grateful for you being here, by the way.
I love it. Thank you.
Because this show is about taking care of people, being kind to people, showing people there's a better way. We don't have to have hate, division, and fear. We can take care of each other. We can be kind to each other. Yes. And even if your legacy is just the grocery store clerk that every time you walk into their store and go to the checkout stand, you have a smile on your face, and they can say, yeah, I remember him. He had a smile on his face every time. That is enough. Do you agree?
Completely. We have infinite opportunities to brighten people's days, and they respond to that, which brightens our day. It's a circle.
Yes, indeed. And you have brightened my day, and I want to thank you so much for doing that for me.
It's been a pleasure to be here, Kevin. I've loved talking with you.
You are awesome. You're going to have to come back and one of these days I'm going to have you come and do a ceremony for me when it's my time.
When people say that to me, Kevin, I say, how do you know you won't be doing the ceremony for me?
Well, and you just don't know. It's my cousin. She was 63 and she fell ill and had an operation and passed away at 63. And it was like, she had no idea, and nobody did. It wasn't. And my mother played bridge on Wednesday, went to dinner on Thursday, was going to go to a birthday party on Saturday, and she didn't show up because she died on Friday.
Wow. We never know what our time is, the limit is. You never know.
And it doesn't matter that we do know. What we do have control over is taking that step after each step and continuing to move on with perseverance and with ability to make that all happen. And I want to thank Diane Gansauer for being here. She's remarkable. And the name of her book again, please go get it.
The Waypoints from 400 Farewells and 3,000 Miles.
I'll bet you there's a tear in there or two somewhere too.
But it's not. It's about life. It's not about death. It's about life.
And I want to thank you so much for being here. I've had a great time.
Me too.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin